Hello everyone, and welcome to Counselor Feature Friday. I'm your host, Brian Urban. In these features, we hope to give you some simple tips, tidbits, and tricks to make your days easier and your patients happier. In this feature, we're going to talk about returns, exchanges, and cancellations. Specifically, we're going to walk through the process of returning some devices and talk through the different variations along the way. So first we'll do is we'll start in a patient profile and click on the Invoices tab. All returns, exchanges, and cancellations are completed through the invoice itself. So we'll see the invoice here. We'll go and click inside, and let's go to the Line Items tab. In the Line Items tab at the bottom, we can see the two devices that were added for this patient. We go ahead and start with the first. Let's take the left device, and we'll edit that device. Now within this section, you'll see there's an area right in the center for returned, exchanged, and canceled. Of course, you would just go ahead and check the box that applies. Now, just to define these really quickly, returned, of course, would be the patient returning one or more device and not expecting to move forward with any other devices. Exchange would be they are returning them, but you have anticipation they're going to be refit with different devices or a different accessory. Canceled would be defined as really a fitting that never happened, right? So you perhaps created the invoice, maybe you took a down payment, you ordered the devices, you have them ready to go, and the fitting never moved forward for whatever reason. This just gives you another option to really track that to basically say, hey, this really shouldn't count as a return or exchange because we never actually fit the devices. Okay, but let's just start here looking at returned. So of course you go ahead and you choose the date. So you can backdate this. So for example, if the patient returned the devices on a Friday and you didn't have an opportunity to log this until Saturday or Monday, you of course can go ahead and change the date. We'll just leave this as today. And of course you would just leave the quantity as 1. We'll go ahead and click Save. And what that's going to do at the bottom of the screen here is it will create an additional item, an additional line item. That's the inversion here. So it's going to give us the negative amount for this device, and it shows it as being returned. You can see in the little summary here, returned, exchange, cancellation, it's saying that this left device is returned. Okay, that of course will be reflected throughout the system in your numbers that this device has been returned. If this device came from stock, it would automatically be returned to stock. And that applies actually for all three of these options, returned, exchanged, or cancellations. Anytime you activate that feature, if it's a stock device, that device will go back into stock and be immediately available in that clinic. Okay, let's go ahead and look, let's do this again for the right device. Now let's say in this case, the patient wants to exchange. For exchanges, same idea. You can change the date, leave the quantity to 1. That will go through the exact same process where it now has created a second line item that's reflective or the inverse of the right device here with a negative. So here we can see the patient balance is now 0. A frequent question comes up. People say, well, do I need to enter the new devices in the case of an exchange? I need to add the new devices right away. The answer is no. You absolutely can. If you know what you're going to get the patient, go ahead, add it to the device, to the invoice right away. However, if you're not sure, perhaps the patient returned them, you're going to give it some thought, maybe they're going to talk it through, decide on a different style or a different manufacturer, you can wait, right? It's entirely up to you. And that's why Counselor does not require that you put in new devices upon exchange. We want to give you some flexibility to be able to enter that at the right time for you. Cancellation really is the exact same process we saw before with returns exchanges, where you simply click on cancel, same idea here. Like I said, the only difference with cancellations is the fitting never occurred. So this is just happening prior to prior to any potential fitting. So between these three options, hopefully it gives you a great deal of flexibility for tracking what happened with devices, not only for individual patients, but at the aggregate level, because all this data can then be seen in the hearing aid sales summary and detailed reports. So it gives you the ability, just to show you this very quickly, to search by a whole wide variety of criteria. I'm going to leave this pretty wide open and run this report. But then within the report, we can see our aggregate data here. So we have, total units. This is all gross data, total ASP. Then we see net. So this takes out the returns, exchanges, cancellations, and then breaks down the actual data. So we see 11 returns. Here's the percentage. Here's exchanges, cancellations. This is, of course, over this entire time range. Then if we scroll down, we see the actual data. Right, and as we scroll on further, based on the topic for this Feature Friday, we're looking specifically at returns and return rates and exchanges, exchange rates and cancellations and cancellation rates, and then of course it finishes off with the binary rates as well. So by tracking that accurately at the invoice level, it gives you a great deal of insight as to what's happening in your practices, right? If you have multiple locations, multiple providers, you can drill down and see specifically, hey, our exchange rate seems really high. Let's find out where that's coming from. Or if you're a solo provider, you just want to have a better sense of your data, but it doesn't make sense to try to keep that in a separate spreadsheet. By tracking that each time for each invoice, you then can bring open the hearing aid sales summary and hearing aid sales detail reports and see that very specifically. All right. Of course, if you have any questions about this, please give us a call, email us, live chat us. We are always happy to help. Thank you very much for joining us for today's Counselor Feature Friday. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.